All right, so let's go ahead and get started today. We are working on Chapter 1, Lesson 4, which is ratio tables. Students will be able to fill in a ratio table. That is where we are working towards. Now, the ratio tables, what they're going to come in handy for, you will be using this in 7th and definitely in 8th grade for graphing. And so this lesson is kind of preparing us to get to the graphing point. The graphing is actually going to come in the next lesson, Chapter 1, Lesson 5. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Make sure to write down absolutely everything that is in this video, everything that is typed or written, and please be sure to pause this video at any time that you need to slow things down. All right, so remember, the first number is on your top row, and it is your X. Your second number is on your bottom row, and it is your Y, and either set it up to solve for the unknown variable or scale up, and whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. We'll go into those details, and I'll do a couple examples for one and then a couple examples for the other, so you can get some practice in. Pause this video and make sure to write all of this information down. Okay, so every box of candy has 2 pieces of candy in it. So every one box, this is understood to be one box. Okay. Why isn't this working here? Let's try this again. Every one box, there we go. So every one box of candy has 2 pieces of candy in it. So I'm going to put boxes on top, and this is going to be my X. And I'm going to put candy on bottom, and that's going to be my Y. Okay, so every one box of candy has 2 pieces of candy in it. It says create a table showing the pieces of candy in up to 5 boxes. So we'll do 1 box, 2 boxes, 3 boxes, 4 boxes, and 5 boxes. Well, if one box has 2 pieces of candy in it, then if we multiply this times 2 to get 2, 1 times 2 gives us 2, then we have to multiply the bottom times 2. 2 times 2 gives us 4. I'm going to do this in a different color now. To get from 1 to 3, we need to multiply times 3. So to get from 2 to this box, we need to multiply 2 times 3. 2 times 3 gives me 6. Okay, to go from our first box again to the 4th box, we need to multiply it times 4. So we need to take our first box and multiply that times 4 to get our 4th box down here. And 2 times 4 gives me 8. And our last box, we need to multiply our top box times 5. So then we multiply our bottom box, so it's hard to see, times 5. And 2 times 5 gives me 10. And so we answered our questions. It wanted us to show how many pieces of candy were in up to 5 boxes. So in 5 boxes of candy, you would have 10 pieces of candy in 5 boxes. Okay, so that was the scaling up model. Okay, so it says every hour Ned walks 2 miles. So for every 1 hour, Ned walks 2 miles. So we're going to put hours on top. That's our X. And our bottom is miles. And that will be our Y. Okay, so for every 1 hour, he walks 2 miles. And it says create a table showing the miles traveled over the course of 5 hours. So for 1 hour, that's 2 miles. So 2 hours, 1 times 2 gives me 2. So 2 times 2 gives me 4. Let's see if my eraser will work. better if I could erase this, but the eraser is hard to use. It doesn't always like to erase on here. All right. So now 1 times 3 gives me 3. So 2 times 3 gives me 6. This is very similar to our last problem. We're just talking about miles and hours instead of candy in boxes. 1 times 4 gives us 4. So 2 times 4 gives us 8. And our last one, 1 times 5 gives us 5. And so 2 times 5 gives us 10. Okay, so it wanted to know how many miles for 5 hours, and so Ned walked 10 miles in 5 hours. Again, that's the scaling method. Okay, here I'm going to use the solving for that unknown variable. We worked with this a little bit last week, so you should be familiar with this. I'm going to put 4 over 10, and I'm going to set that equal to 6 over, and we don't know this bottom number, so we're just going to put an X there. Okay, to solve this, we need to cross multiply here. 4 times X and 6 times 10. 4 times X is 4X, and 6 times 10 is 60. And to solve for X, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 1 times X is X. And 60 divided by 4 gives me 15. If you didn't know that 60 divided by 4 gives you 15, you can divide it off to the side. 4 goes into 6 one time, that's 4. Subtract and we get 2, bring down our 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20, subtract and we get 0. So our answer that they were looking for is 15. And what that tells us is that for 6 pairs of socks, it costs $16. I mean, sorry, not 16, $15, okay? You could have done the scale down method to scale up. And what that means is that we're going to reduce 4 over 10 down to 2 over 5. And the reason we want to pick 2 over 5 is because then you can multiply 2 times 3 to get 6. So you could then multiply 5 times 3 to get 15. Now, personally, I feel like the way we just did it, trying to solve for X, was a whole lot more simple than that, because it's hard to, for some people to come up with the reduced fraction that we would need to then scale forward. But if this is easier for you, you could skip all of the solving for X and just scale forward. That's completely up to you. Okay, and so for our last one, again, you could do it one of 2 ways. You could cross multiply and solve for X. Six times X is 6X, and 30 times 18. I'm going to do 18 times 3, and then I'm going to tack on a 0. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. I'm going to tack on that 0 on the end. And so, excuse me, we can divide both sides by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 1 times X is X. And 540 divided by 6 gives me 90, because 6 goes into 54 9 times, and then we have that 0 on the end. If you didn't know how to divide that in your head, you could always come out to the side and divide 540 by 6. 6 goes into 54 9 times. 9 times 6 is 54. Subtract, we get 0. Bring down our 0. 6 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 6 is 0. Subtract and we get 0. So either way, you're going to get 90 minutes. So that means that they biked 18 miles in 90 minutes. Now, you could have scaled forward. 6 times 3 does give me 18. So then you could just multiply 30 times 3 to get to the 90. In this problem, the scaling is actually fairly simple. So that would be easy for some of you to do. You could again do either way. Solve for x or scale forward, but you have to remember to multiply the same on your top as you would your bottom. Okay, because you're getting equivalent fractions here. The equivalent fraction being 6 over 30 is equivalent to 18 over 90 because you multiply the top and bottom numbers by the same thing. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow.